Instagram stories for Monday, September 30th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill, and I'm just going to say right off the bat that today's episode is going to be all about Instagram. Normally, I start with the biggest item first, but in this case, I'm actually going to talk about the least interesting item first. Instagram has announced their new sound as part of their Sonic branding. First, here's what this means. This is a new signature sound for Reels. So every reel that you download will have this audio clip at the end as part of Instagram's new Sonic identity. There is a quote from Sierra Sinclair, sound designer at Meta, who said, quote, "We brought a vibe where we intentionally wanted it to be punctuated but imperfect. A metaphor for everyday creativity that doesn't have to be perfect to be shared." Here's what the audio sounds like. That was really not that dramatic, but it is meant to be quite short. There are audio things that you think of as associated with brands. Maybe you think of the intro for some Disney movies, or maybe the first time you saw Star Wars and it had that THX sound really loud. Audio branding is a key component of companies having an overall brand presence and having a cohesive marketing strategy. So not surprised Instagram did this. I thought the sound would be a little bit more notable. It does have to be short though. Reels are typically short, so that does make sense. Okay, let's keep going. Usually on Mondays, we talk about what the head of Instagram shared on his Ask Me Anything, and I'm going to get into a couple of clips, but first, he did a myth-busting video. Do you ever feel like editing your videos in a different app other than Instagram is going to keep you from getting maximum reach? Maybe you use CapCut, maybe you use Adobe Premiere Pro, maybe you use Adobe Rush, maybe you use Sony Vegas. There are millions of programs out there, some for the computer, some for the phone. Where is it best to edit, and does it matter? Here's Adam's answer to that question.
Quick myth bust. I hear from a lot of creators that they're worried that if they edit their video in a third-party app, it'll affect their reach on Instagram. And that is not true. But what is true is that no matter what app you use to edit the video, if there's a big watermark on top of that video the whole way through, that will affect your reach. So if you're using another app, great. Just make sure not to use or to remove any watermarks and you'll be good to go.
You know what's interesting about what he just said? He said the watermark would be throughout the video. I actually noticed that CapCut by default adds a little CapCut end screen with an audio brand at the end of videos. I always turn that off in the CapCut settings because I don't want any watermark at all, but it seems like that potentially would be okay. Again, I don't think you want it. Why do you want to give CapCut free advertising on your video? You don't. But that is not going to penalize you the way having a TikTok watermark on the video the entire time would. So I do think that's a key differentiator. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into some of the questions that the head of Instagram answered on his Ask Me Anything. So stay tuned. And we're back. We're diving into the questions that the head of Instagram answered on his Ask Me Anything. And let's start with the saltiest question, because I think this is fantastic. Somebody put in the Ask Me Anything, "Why are you useless? What do you actually do for Instagram?" That is hilarious. I love that not only did somebody have the guts to write that, but Adam actually chose to answer it. Here's his answer.
This question's got some bite, but I do get this a lot in different ways, and I thought it would be interesting to at least answer the question of what I do for Instagram. And the biggest thing is I try to set the teams up for success. There's lots of teams on Instagram by making sure they've got the right goals, they're getting good feedback, they're thinking long term, they have the resources they need to do the things that they need to do to make Instagram more relevant, more interesting, more valuable to all the people who use it and those who rely on it. In practice, that means a lot of meetings, emails, spreadsheets, dashboards, and to a smaller degree, spokesperson work, doing these types of AMAs, meeting people all around the world who use Instagram, getting feedback from them. Sometimes they're very complimentary, sometimes they're not as much, usually somewhere in between. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. So if you're not happy with the experience, it's on me. Let me know. I'm sure you will. I do get a lot of these types of messages, and we will continue to work to try and improve. But it is a fun, interesting job with a lot of different aspects to it.
Okay, I want to say two things specifically about what he just said. Number one, his job is harder than I think I even give him credit for, because not only is he head of Instagram, but he's head of Threads as well. Those are two separate apps. They are tied quite closely together in many ways, but they have completely different use cases. And so to be head of both of those, that is pretty tough. I don't know of any other major social media app where the head of it is responsible for two major social media apps. The other thing I want to touch on is how he mentioned that he is the spokesperson for Instagram, doing events and AMAs, basically being the brand ambassador for it. And I really wish that the CEO of TikTok, Shou Chew, could do the same thing. I'm sure there are reasons that he can't, scheduling, whatever, but the way Adam Mosseri has stepped into this role is absolutely something I wish the CEO of TikTok, Shou Chew, was actively doing. The next couple of questions have to do with Meta's Connect event. This was a huge event last week. Mark Zuckerberg gave an hour-long keynote. I touched on the highlights in last week's episode. If you do not have a chance to listen, go back and listen to Wednesday's episode. Let's talk about one of the new tools that Mark Zuckerberg mentioned for Reels, AI translation. If you were to make a reel and post it, the AI translation would allow you to post that reel in different languages simultaneously, meaning that even though I only speak English, I could make that reel in English, Spanish, French, Italian, and so forth, and everyone would have the opportunity to view that content. The question, the AI translation feature looks cool. When will we be able to try it?
So for those of you who didn't see, we're going to be rolling out the ability to translate videos from English into Spanish and Spanish into English. And it will do voice dubbing and lip syncing. So it'll look like you're speaking the language that you didn't originally speak. The idea is to help creators reach audiences in other countries where they don't speak the same language. We want to roll this out in a lot of languages in a lot of countries to a lot of creators over time, but we're starting with Spanish and English and a handful of creators over the next couple of weeks. But I'm very excited about this long term, but it will take a while to fully get to scale. Pretty cool idea though.
The next question has to do with creators getting invited to Meta Connect. I personally was not invited, although I certainly would have liked to have been. The question, were creators invited to Meta Connect?
Of course, we had creators, we had developers, we had press, we had a bunch of employees. It was, I would say, the most exciting Connect we've had in many, many years. Check out my posts about it on Threads if you want to get more information about what we launched. Also, I posted a carousel on Instagram as well.
The next question has to do with AI, and it's a request. Add AI tools on Picture. Now, Adam Mosseri is going to describe some tools that are available today. I don't think we're quite at the level that I want us to be yet. And when I say we and us, I mean technology as a whole. But here's Adam's answer.
There's definitely more to do here, but one thing I would encourage you to check out is talk to Meta AI in DMs, and you can actually send it an image and ask it to do an edit. So there's a lot of fun, creative things you can do with what's called text and image to image generation. So I'd love to see people use it in interesting and new ways, because I think there'll be a lot of fun, particularly memes out of this one.
I think these tools are progressing rapidly, but they're not quite at the point yet where I could say, add me into this picture, or Photoshop out my shirt, or something like that. I don't think we're quite there yet. And that's really where am going to be so excited when we are. This way I don't have to find someone on Fiverr to do the work for me. That's really where I'm going with that concept. Okay, the last question we're going to talk about today has to do with multiple feeds in Instagram. If you're not familiar, there are 3 different kinds of feeds that you can have as part of your Instagram experience. When you first open up Instagram, there's the normal feed, which has the algorithm, suggested posts, and posts from people that you follow. If you tap on the Instagram button at the top left of the app on the homepage, there are 2 other feeds that you can choose from. The following feed, which is just people that you follow, and your favorites feed, which is only people who you've marked as favorites inside the app. Now the question is, have you ever thought about letting users set the following feed as their primary feed? Adam's answer is very telling.
This is super contentious, but I just want to address it. Of course, we thought about it. We've tested it and tried it a number of times. Every time we have, there's a subgroup of people who are happy. There's a bunch of people who forget that they're in it. And then overall, everybody who's in it uses Instagram less and less over time. And when we ask them questions like, how satisfied are you with Instagram? They actually report being less happy with Instagram more and more over time on average. And then there's these second order effects where their friends start using Instagram less because they use it less. They send less likes and comments, messages. And then there's all of this other stuff. It just gets worse and worse and quickly. That said, there's a need here, right? There's a group of people who really want to get to their connected content quickly. We've tried to help by creating a following feed, allowing this news recommendations for a month, creating favorites so you can make sure you never miss anything from accounts that you really want to see everything from. But I'm sure there's more we can do, and we're going to continue to explore more in the space and try to find the right balance.
It's so funny because a few years ago, I personally would have said, yes, this is so important. This is critical. You absolutely have to have it. But the TikTok For You page has completely taken me away from that concept because of how much great content there is out there that I haven't seen. Having said that, so few of my friends are actually creating content for TikTok, so it's a completely different environment. A lot of my friends post pictures and videos on Instagram regularly, and I do want to see those over the suggested posts. I would prefer to see pictures of my friends and the activities that they're doing as opposed to people I don't know on Instagram because my friends are on Instagram. It is a bit of a dichotomy for sure. That is going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you for listening. Please leave a review if you like it. If you have suggestions for me, send me a DM at Daniel Hill Media and wraps on.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course of book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.